What up, what up, what up, everybody? You are back in tune on another episode of In the Fields podcast. It's your host, Johnny, with my beautiful, lovely, amazing wife, Lisa. And yeah, man, we are back. And on this episode, we're going to be taking a deep dive into healthy love triggers old wounds. Just the idea that even being in a healthy relationship doesn't necessarily make the internal landmines that we've planted over time, doesn't make them disappear. And oftentimes, they say like scar tissue is sensitive. So, sometimes when we are stepping around those landmines, or sometimes when that scar tissue gets touched from old wounds, it could just still kind of like, we're still a little sensitive to it. You know what I mean? And again, safe love doesn't erase old wounds. It more or less reveals them. So I really like the topic of this episode. And before we get into it, I want to start this episode with an AA meeting, our anonymous advice meeting, where we post the topic of the episode. Somebody sends in a situation that they may be in that applies to the topic, and then we give them our advice. We give them our insight. And as far as hopefully our words can guide them and help them get to that safe space that they're looking for.
Help other people.
Yeah,
relating, all that.
Well, you want to take it away, babe?
Yeah, so we got a submission from a listener, and they write, I'm in a really healthy relationship, but I get triggered by things that don't seem like a big deal. Things like delayed texts, quiet moments, or my partner needing space. My mind immediately jumps to abandonment. Even though my partner has never given me a reason to feel that way, I don't want to project my past onto my present, but I don't know how to stop.
Okay, do you want to take it away? Follow up?
Yeah, I mean, I can deeply relate to that just because, I've talked about it before. All of my past relationships were toxic in most ways. And even ours wasn't the healthiest at first, but you were definitely a healthier partner than I've ever experienced. And I think the biggest part for me was not knowing how to navigate that. Because like she said, like I also felt triggered by things that were very like innocent, non-threatening kind of things. But because in some way it reminded me of my past, what I've learned is like our brains become like these like overprotective security systems, because even though I move into a nicer, safer new neighborhood, I'm still on high alert from previous break-ins, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So it takes a while for you to uncondition yourself to the hypervigilance that you just naturally build over time. Healthy communication was a big thing that I had to learn, because one thing that I've learned is relationships are important. They're, essential for your healing, because when you're put in a safe place, you are allowing these things to come out for you to address them. Because when you're in those toxic situations, that's not safe. So you keep everything buried. You don't address the issues because it's just a natural response for you in those situations. But when you're no longer there, you have to find a way to, communicate with your partner. Let them be aware of like your past. Like that's very important for them to be able to have some type of understanding of where you're coming from. And not everybody's going to be open to being able to even be there for you. And that's also okay, because you got to also understand that that person's probably also coming with their own wounds that they also have to, heal. So going through that healing journey is important, but being able to communicate and work through it with your partner is also important. Like if you're staying quiet and not addressing these things or not being open with them about it, you can come off as like, oh, you're crazy. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. You have to be able to vocalize, I've been in this position before, and this is why it makes me uncomfortable, and I have to learn how to navigate around this. So Definitely communication is really big, and addressing these things and knowing that in those safe spaces, it is okay to start unpacking all of that stuff.
No, I completely agree. Also, just to add on to the hypervigilance, that comes from your nervous system not feeling safe yet, when even though you may be in a safe space, that doesn't mean that your body, your spirit, your mind know that yet. Oftentimes it's like you said, like our brain kind of puts this security system in place where, I don't want to say it's like too good to be true, but oftentimes that's what happens. When you get hurt so many times, it starts to become what you feel to believe is your norm. And it's almost kind of like the reverse effect of the little boy that cried wolf. It's like you get hurt, you get hurt, you get hurt, you get hurt, you get hurt. So now you just assume that the next thing is just going to hurt you. You know what I mean? Instead of believing in the fact that, this is a safe space. This is a place where, you can heal and really work on yourself. And I think the most important thing for the listener that submitted that is just reminding yourself that you're in a safe space. I think that was a big one for us, is like, as much as we can assume that, assume the worst, we also can assume the best, and I think that's part of the mental switch, where if you are accustomed to just pain from your partners and assuming the worst out of them, then you'll never actually know what it's like to be in a safe space. And, sometimes when you're conditioned to the chaos, even for some people, like, safety and healthy relationships seem boring, or like something's actually wrong because they're so accustomed to the chaos. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's unusual for them to be in a healthy relationship, and it's unusual for them to be getting something other than toxicity. Mm-hmm. So it's like, when you've lived off of that and you've spent time in that, it seems like, again, it's like that mental conditioning, and it partially, you start to think that that's all you deserve, And I think that the combination of all of those things create that hypervigilance within your relationship, where like healthy things can seem like abandonment. Like, instead of somebody trying to have the conversation within a heated moment, them needing space for themselves might seem like abandonment. You know what I mean? And it's like, in that instance, it's like they're actually choosing the healthy choice, which is, let me step away from something that's that's highly driven by emotion, and let me take the time to get myself to a point where I can communicate. And those are just like healthy tactics. But for somebody who's used to just arguing all the time, it's like, that seems weird. That seems like you don't want to resolve this right now. You want to dip. You want to leave me hanging. Like, and it's just, again, it's like, when you're in a healthy relationship, that's the time to heal. That's the time to reflect on these things that are making you uncomfortable, because triggers aren't bad. Triggers are just a reminder of where we need to heal. Triggers are literally the reminders of the places within us that we need to heal. Mm-hmm. If you're triggered by somebody doing healthy tactics, or healthy things in a relationship, then it's probably because that part of you needs to heal from the trauma and pain that you experienced in prior relationships, so that these healthy tactics can land, and that these healthy choices can really hit and make a difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's teaching you something. It's something you're not used to, and it's something that you've probably wanted for a really long time, but just didn't know how to obtain it because you were never in spaces that allowed you to feel those things. And like you said, like the abandonment thing, when you're in an argument and needing to walk away, like, that was a big thing for me in the beginning of our relationship. Like, you were big on, like, I need to step away, But the second you would do that, I would spiral instantly, like, oh, you're leaving for good. I'm never going to see you again. And I would like block the door. You're not allowed to leave. You know what I mean? But now, because of our communication, like, that's the thing. Like, you had to really explain to me why you needed to walk away. Like, we had to have those conversations, and I had to explain my fear in you walking away. And we were able to come together and be like, you know, instead of you just leaving, you'd be like, listen, this is getting heated. I need to take a second. Until it came to a point where, like, now I have healed that version of me, that part of me, to where, like, now there's times where I feel myself getting heated or elevating, and I now know how to walk away and take a second for myself. So it's like a full circle, because I hated that feeling, but because of you, I learned how to obtain the ability to do something like that. Like, one big thing is like, when you feel yourself spiraling, you have to take a second to think to yourself, like, you know, this is a 10 out of 10 fear for a 2 out of 10 situation. You know what I mean? Like, it's not fact, like, what is happening. It's just emotional. And you have to be able to distinguish between that. Like, you have to give yourself that time to really look at what you're feeling and compare it with the facts of what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm. And you have to, like, not tie the fearful assumptions to the situation. Because, again, we take our past experiences and then we almost use that as, like, the cookie cutter or the stencil that we think our future relationships are all going to fall into, you know? And it's like, the second something happens that is even an inkling of a reminder of the domino effect that occurred in previous relationships, like you said, like heated argument, space, that usually means we're done, we're breaking up. Like that assumption, because of events that occurred prior, like, we have to learn to not do that, because, again, the same way we can assume the worst is the same way we can assume the best, you know? And I think that's just the most important thing is when you're with somebody, man, like, you don't want to be in a relationship where you're assuming the worst from your partner. Mm-mm. That's just already not giving them the opportunity to be the partner you want them to be.
You got to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I get it's hard because, like, if you had a traumatic childhood and then toxic relationships, or you've seen a lot, like, it makes sense as to why you're quick to judge the next relationship and thinking that, you know, this was bad, this was bad, this was bad. Like, it's only fair to assume this is going to be bad as well, because I've never been shown otherwise. But, like, you have to be open and willing to give the next person the benefit of the doubt to show you differently.
Yeah, and just because you're feeling that way, like, your reaction, it doesn't necessarily mean that your relationship is wrong. It just means that you haven't become accustomed to safety yet. You haven't grown into those healthy habits, and it feels like uncharted territory for you and your nervous system, and you're just, again, you're going into fight or flight.
Yeah. Because
that's what you're just trained to do, or that's what you've been groomed or accustomed to doing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, as far as advice that I would give the listener, I mean, besides everything we said, is just communicate, you know, talk to your partner. Let them know that those things make you feel that way, so that they can offer you the reassurance that you need in order to get to that, you know, that safe space where you are comfortable with the way things are being handled. You know, I think that's one of the most important things, is just communication and ensuring that you're communicating these feelings instead of coming to the conclusions based off of your fear, instead of coming to those conclusions in your own mind or assuming. You know, communicate, talk to your partner. Intent is everything, you know, and if there is no malicious intent with what they're trying to do, if they need, you know, if they need space for themselves or whatever the case is, then definitely have that conversation. It will save you guys so much time, and come up with a plan how to handle heated moments, how you guys want to discuss those things, that how you guys want to have those hard conversations. Like, those are those should be things you guys should be discussing. So this way, when those moments do arise, because they happen in every single relationship, you guys will be ready. You'll be well equipped, and you'll know how to navigate these things where it doesn't necessarily trigger you, but even if it does trigger you, you'll already have the knowledge and the know-how to reassure yourself, or at the very least, go to your partner and be able to gain the reassurance that you're looking for.
Yeah, I like that.
Hell yeah, man. No, that was dope. I like that. Well, before we get into the rest of the episode,
Ooh-la.
let's give them a word from our sponsors, man. Introducing Ooh La Lade. I mean, I really doesn't need an introduction, guys. It is the best lemonade in existence.
New flavors.
We even got them frozen, so now they're like Ooh La slushy Ooh La Lades, Ooh La slushes, Ooh Lushies. I don't know what to call them.
It's my favorite when they're frozen.
It is delicious, guys. Ooh La Lade, made with love, all natural ingredients, hand squeezed. It's just. It's so good. It's literally the bee's knees. Make sure you guys follow them at Ula_Lade. Once again, that's at Ula_Lade. Tell them Johnny and Lisa sent you, and they're going to take care of you guys the same way that they take care of us. And yeah, man, other than that, back to the episode. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to all the feelers who are tuned in. Again, guys, we're taking a deep dive into, how healthy love can still trigger old wounds. And, oftentimes, again, when we get into healthy relationships, it doesn't make those triggers go away. It doesn't. If anything, a healthy relationship kind of unearths those triggers and makes them more prevalent, because again, like you didn't when you have triggers, you don't learn love through safety. Oftentimes you're learning love through survival, and that's what confuses your nervous system. Like when you're so accustomed to chaos, the calm can seem boring or even suspicious,
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, like, bro, I literally know people that have been like, I remember, I don't know who it was that said it recently, but, like, I literally know people who, like, are in healthy relationships and have even admitted, like, at first it was like, damn, you're not going to argue with me? Not even a little bit? Like, tell me no. Yell at me. Something. You know what I mean? And it's like, oftentimes it's like when you're so accustomed to that, and that's the version of love it makes healthy relationships seem not whack, but like just not it. Like oftentimes
Scary.
It's like, this is too good to be true, or this is suspicious, or something's got to be wrong, or sometimes calm and that can be correlated to distance. Like, oh, he's not blowing up my phone, or he's not, constantly texting me, or she's not on my shit like 24/7. Like, there must be something wrong. You know what I mean? And I just think that that's such a horrible misconception.
Meanwhile, they're just comfortable and happy with where they're at, and they don't need to be up under you 24/7.
Right. And I think that's the goal, you know what I mean, is when you get into a healthy relationship, it's developing that trust and that confidence within your relationship. But I think it's hard because oftentimes, people are just so accustomed to love being this suffocating, traumatic, toxic thing,
Yeah. And I think it's crazy because, like, our brain's primarily job is to keep us alive. It's not necessarily to keep us happy. And the part of our brain in the amygdala, that's what fires off when you're in any type of stressful situation, and that's your fight or flight, system. So when your nervous system is so used to being in that fight or flight scenario, like you said, when you're put into these healthy situations and things are happening similarly but in a healthier way, your body is just so used to being in that state of survival that, like, you want to respond the same way you used to. But because of the fact that the situation isn't requiring that type of response, your body just feels so uncomfortable and so confused because you don't know how to respond in a healthy way. And then it's hard for your partner too, because they might not even be used to living within those situations. For them, it can be extremely confusing because they're like, I'm not even doing anything wrong. Like, what did I do? Like, what is the problem? You know what I mean? And I know from example, like, I didn't know how to communicate what I was going through because of how conditioned I was to that type of living. Like, to me, that just seemed so normal. And how do you explain to somebody, well, this is normal to me, without the fear of getting looked at like you're crazy? And it's like important, like, you're not crazy. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just you've been hurt time and time and time again. And biologically speaking, our brains are just like trying to protect you. But you have to know the difference and know that, like, the shit you went through wasn't okay. And you didn't deserve to go through those things. And you deserve to learn how to heal and get through them and enjoy healthy love, because it's a beautiful place to be. But you have to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, and I think you have to want it, Like, I think that's what helped you so much in our relationship was your desire to actually be safe.
Oh, for sure.
Some people don't, I don't want to say some people don't want it, but some people don't feel deserving of it. And so when they don't feel deserving of it, they often self-sabotage. Or they do that shit where, like, well, this is just how I am.
They don't want to accept that, like,
yeah, this is just okay. Me. This is what I deserve. This is the love I've always gotten. That's it. You take me as I am. And I'm like, yeah, but don't you want better? Don't you want to be better? You know what I mean? And I think that was the big switch for you. Like, it felt like, I mean, even for both of us, is just the desire to want to be better. And not just for ourselves, but for each other, like, and within this relationship and for our kids, and just so many instances where it felt like we knew that there had to be other choices.
Yeah, like, this can't be end all be all.
Yeah, like, this ain't it,
like, there gotta be more to life.
And even, like, just prior experiences, like, like, my parents used to argue a lot, and, like, I just knew, like, there's no way that that's it. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like, you see the love in the movies, which is like the over, like super one-sided, movie love, right? Where it's like everything's fucking perfect. They're in La La Land, yada, yada, yada. And then you've got like the other side, which is like overly fucking traumatic and argumentative and just toxic. And then, like, it's just like, it's not necessarily movie shit all the time, but it's definitely not this either. And there's kind of like this happy place in the middle that, you have moments where you argue, and that's fine. Like, within relationships comes a lot of forgiveness and shit like that. So you're bound to run into moments where you don't always like each other and you piss each other off.
Yeah, you can't get along 100% of the time. You don't get along with anybody 100% of the time.
Mm-mm.
Like, there's gonna be things that annoy each other and piss each other off. But it's like it's the pure fact of, like, working through your traumas and building a safe foundation at home with your partner. Even if you have to set, like, I see a lot of couples talk, like, on social media and stuff, like, people that have been interviewed or whatever, who, like, have set rules within their relationship. Like, one of the rules is, we don't exceed a certain level of our tones. Like, if we start getting loud to a certain point, we have to walk away until we can calm down and come back together and talk later. We don't call each other out of our names. We don't talk about divorce ever. Like you can set rules within your relationship that you both agree on to keep some level of peace amongst situations where like there is an argument. It is going to happen. But like how do we navigate that without pushing too many buttons or really digging too deep where it hurts or whatever the case is? Like you can do that, but you have to figure it out throughout communication and speaking to one another. Like, hey, I'm not okay when you say things like this, or hey, I'm not okay if this happens. Okay, neither am I. All right, so what can we do within these situations? Because we're going to end up arguing again. So how can we navigate it better next time? It should always be trying to be better each time you come into situations instead of just being so quick, like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, you have to have the desire to look for those healthy alternatives. If you don't look for it or strive to obtain it, then you won't have it. You know, it's that again, desire to change, even though change can be uncomfortable, that desire to strive for those healthy habits is you have to want it. And healthy habits just don't start because you want it. You have to implement it. And you're going to slip up and you're going to fuck up and you're going to drop the ball and you're going to piss each other off and you are going to have arguments. There are still going to be heated moments, but the way that you navigate them is by implementation and really trying to hone in on that skill of communication and developing those healthy habits. Because again, a habit is something that takes time. It takes time and it takes repetition and it's a trial and error. Some shit you might do and it won't work. And then you're like, okay, that didn't really work out for me. I didn't like the way that panned out. Let me try something different, you know? And again, as long as you're still trying and you desire those healthy habits and you desire to reach that healthy space, nothing can really stop you and your significant other or whatever relationship you're in. You know what I mean? It could even be a relationship with a friend. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be even just a significant other. Like, you can still have friends who communicate and, yo, bro, I didn't really like that. You know, that you said that. Like, it's cool. Like, I figured, you know what I mean? Like, you can just have communication. Like, relationships shouldn't be draining you, you know? Relationships are supposed to be something that we improve each other, you know? Like, iron sharpens iron, and the same way that iron sharpens iron, humans also sharpen humans. Like, as a collective, we should be working together to attain better things, whether that's better health spiritually, mentally, emotionally, developing better habits and improving oneself and helping others improve. And, you know, just again, sharing that within your relationship is what makes it essential and what makes it worth fighting for. If that's not happening or you're doing something and it's not serving either one of you, then that may not be the relationship for you, you know? But it's something where if the both of you guys agree, like, hey, like, I'll do everything I can to not only improve myself, but anything I can help you with, and vice versa. You know, that's the beauty of relationships. So if you're in a relationship that is offering that safe space, not a lot of relationships do that, dude. Adult friendships are hard. Relationships, especially young, are hard because there's the breakups and you know, people just do shitty shit. You know, people are often, you know, sometimes if people want to have their cake and eat it too. So it's like, you know, it's in those moments that you have to choose to push further and not allow it to define you. Like, just because you get in arguments and had shitty relationships prior, that doesn't define you, doesn't make you, that doesn't solidify what you deserve or what you're capable of. And oftentimes people get stuck in that, you know, and it just sucks.
Yeah, I like that. And I agree. It's like relationships across the board, family, friends, significant others, relationship with your kids. I think a big thing too is just learning how to set boundaries for yourself so you can also navigate and depict the kind of people you're in relationships with, because the safe ones will respect your boundaries. The ones that don't really care or have their own shit that they need to work on, a lot of the times aren't going to respect those boundaries, and they're going to overstep more often than not. So when you're finding yourself in those positions, like, set boundaries for yourself. Like, hey, I don't tolerate this anymore. Like, I can't respect this kind of behavior or whatever because I need to protect myself. And when those boundaries are constantly overstepped, that's, a good way for you to determine whether or not, I don't know if I should even be in this relationship. Maybe this isn't for me. This is not serving me in any positive way because I'm leaving more stressed than I am feeling happiness. Like, rate your level of happiness or comfortability. Really check in with yourself and ask yourself, like, how is this relationship actually making me feel? Do I feel safe? Because the way our brains work is when you're in a safe place, your brain is going to be like, okay, throughout your subconscious, now we're safe. Now I can unpack and deal with these things. So when you're in those safe places, you're going to see a lot of hardships of trying to navigate through your own subconscious and working on things that have been holding you back from becoming a better person. And like I said, because, for example, I know, our daughter did that in school where one of her friends made a joke and she didn't like it, and she tried to explain it to her, like, hey, like, that didn't make me feel good. I didn't appreciate it. And instead of her friend, like, being understanding to that and being like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you, it was a joke, like, there was no communication there. And instead she got mad, like, it was just a joke, like, don't take it. So, like, she just didn't respond in a very nurturing or caring way. And then, like, but the fact that my daughter can even be like, that made me feel even worse, that, like, she couldn't even be like, I just tried to be honest that I didn't like it. And I'm like, I know, like, you didn't do anything wrong. Like, it's good that you're able to speak on those things and set those kind of boundaries, because that type of communication is healthy. That type of communication is good for you to know how to do. You need to be able to tell people when you don't like something or when something bothers you. And it depends on how that person responds to help you determine whether or not that's somebody you want to keep around or keep being friends with or keep being in a relationship with. So again, a lot of it just boils down to communication and how you end up handling these situations.
Yeah, and a big one too, just to pick up on what you said about, how, like, trying to set the boundaries and people overstepping the boundaries and, like, what Maya did and things like that. I think that's a big signifier too of, like, the big difference between your triggers and, the red flags. Like, oftentimes, like, we get triggered and, and it typically triggers stem from the trauma that we felt prior, but it's not to confuse what is presenting actual toxic behavior or what is presenting, like, actual danger. You know what I mean? Like, somebody's overstepping boundaries, that's a red flag, dude. If I've already communicated to you where I stand, what I expect,
But then
how you can
anyway.
respect me and my wishes, if I present that and you overstep, that's a red flag. That's not a trigger. You know what I mean? That's not, it's going to trigger me. Yeah, I'm going to be triggered because of anybody else that has maybe overstepped prior. But, when I offer you the opportunity, when I offer you the knowledge and the know-how to how to respect me and you choose to disrespect me, now it's a problem. You know what I mean? Now, and like you said, like, those are just relationships, like, that you start to question and you start to see if they're really serving you. And, if you're in a relationship if you have any relationship where your boundaries aren't respected, or you say something to somebody and they try to downplay it, or it is what it is, like, again, relationships are not supposed to make you feel small.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships are not supposed to make you feel like you have to hide. They are to allow you a safe space to be who you are, 100% authentic. And
Yeah.
if I'm sensitive to certain shit or I've been hurt before, so I would respect if you didn't do this so that I don't have to feel some type of way. Like, if we're in a relationship, whether you're my friend, significant other, doesn't matter, respect that, bro. It's really that simple. I'm taking the time to communicate this to you so that I don't harbor resentment and I don't blame you or look at you like somebody who doesn't respect me, you know?
Well, yeah, because communicating those things are so important because, like, yeah, like you said, like triggers are something that stems from old wounds, and red flags are something that typically is a result of current potential, harmful behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing the difference between the two, like it's important that you learn those things and you only learn them through healing because when you're being triggered, it's not something that's necessarily happening in that moment. It's something within you that like is remembering a horrible time and it's like, whoa, you should move cautiously. Whoa, this seems a little too familiar. Whoa, you should slow down. But when you're communicating and you're expressing these boundaries, it's to protect yourself, but it's also to make others aware instead of just going around acting like, well, this is just who I am. But who are you? What is it that makes you then? Just throwing your hands up every single time and just being like, well, this is who I am, that's going to make people not want to get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to push people away, even good people.
Yep.
Because you're putting this giant wall up in front of you and you're not giving anybody the opportunity to give you that safe space for you to heal.
Yep. And I think that also reflects on how much you think you deserve good love. You know, when people put that guard up and try to keep people away, it's you almost think that you only deserve the shitty shit that you had prior. So now you have to put this wall up because you feel like that's the only thing coming your way. And it just sucks because, the misconception is that you have to be fully healed in order to get into a safe relationship or a healthy one. And I don't think people realize that oftentimes healing comes from being in a good relationship
yeah.
and in a loving relationship. So it's like you don't need to be fully healed to deserve love. You have to want love and you have to want to give love and you have to be willing to receive love in order for you to be in a healthy relationship and finally get to that space where you can genuinely heal. I'm not saying there aren't healing journeys that happen on your own, because trust me, there are. But on your own, you're only going to be able to heal so much because on your own, you're not getting triggered the same way you would when you're in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, on your own, you can get your gym shit right. You can get your anger management right. And that's cool. But what happens when you're in a relationship with somebody else and you're so conditioned based on your prior relationships, And I think that's, again, the misconception is that you have to be healed to deserve love. And oftentimes the healing actually occurs within these healthy relationships that, is two people genuinely fighting for each other, two people who genuinely want to get to that point. And if they agree that that's what they want, then that they fight together. Instead of fighting each other, they fight to get to the goal.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because I saw something that said you don't have to show up to a relationship healed. You just have to show up human.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I loved that. It's such a simple phrase, but it runs so deep because we are just human. We all go through things. We all have our bodies biologically all work the same way as far as the chemicals in your brain, your nervous system. All of it is designed for a purpose to keep you safe and healthy and all of these things, but you have to nurture it like you would a plant. You have to make sure you're giving it the right soil, the right sunlight, the right water. When you're putting yourself in situations where those things can get damaged, your internal system is going to be damaged. And you have to fight to put it back in a safe place, in a safe situation in which it can flourish again.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah, dude. I like that. I like this episode. This is good. You want to send them home?
Let's do it.
All right, guys. To all the feelers tuned in, you guys already know how we finish up these episodes, man. We leave you guys with a question that pertains to the topic that we were talking about, which, again, we're referring to how healthy love can still trigger old wounds. And the question that we want to leave you guys with is, what old wound shows up for you when things finally feel safe? I'm going to say it one more time. What old wound shows up for you when things finally feel safe?
Love that.
Make sure you guys drop it in the comments below, whether you're listening to us on YouTube or you're catching us on the socials, because you never know when the why in your story becomes silent and becomes our story. Until next time, guys, keep feeling,
keep sharing,
and keep it real within the feels.
Stay warm out there.
Facts. Shout out to Bad Bunny in a Super Bowl, you heard?